Today's October 26th. World Series tied 1-1 in the pinnacle of the 2025 season. Meanwhile, Pirates are losing someone from their front office to the Nationals. Let's break this one down. You're listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Yins, guys. Thank you for listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast, where we talk all about them Pittsburgh Pirates and that. My name is Josh. His name is Jake. What's up, Jake?
How we doing today, bud?
Doing all right. Doing all right. Bucko Mike's already hot in the chat. We're going to talk about Justin Horowitz and everything there and get into a few other things tonight, too. But first, go ahead.
I went to breakfast before church this morning because when Ashley gets off shift at 7, church is at 8, so we got to kill an hour. And I look over at the TV and they're watching ESPN and they're showing wiffle ball on ESPN. I mean, I think it was like ESPN 8 or something, but like
the Ocho.
I don't know. It just blows my mind, some of the things I see on ESPN anymore. Cornhole championships. They show that on ESPN.
Yeah, but not.
But they took MLB Tonight off the thing.
Yep, no baseball. ESPN seems to be one of the hardest networks to deal with right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You're talking about what once was the worldwide leader in sports. And now, like, what are we doing? It's viewership is way down. Every show's the same. And no matter who you are, as far as like a streaming or a cable provider, they're fighting with you. You know what I mean? Like, I just saw YouTube TV. I just saw it pop up. If you're on YouTube TV, you need to go to this website and fight to keep ESPN. But if you look into it, it's because ESPN won't let them keep ESPN unless they do some kind of ESPN Unlimited thing, which would then result in YouTube TV needing to raise the prices for their customers, which YouTube TV is always like, listen, we don't want to do that. We are, you know what I mean? And the same thing, the same thing happened with baseball. ESPN was like, listen, we want to continue this. And MLB's like, continue showing Sunday Night Baseball? Like, you don't even talk about baseball. And ESPN's like, yeah, we want to keep showing Sunday Night Baseball, but we're going to have to get a lot more money, or we're going to lower the money, or whatever the whole thing is, right?
Yeah.
However the money goes. They're basically like, it's going to favor ESPN because they don't have the money they used to.
Right.
Because they're falling apart. They're letting, like, on-air people go and all these things, all because they can't figure it out, or they're just being more greedy or whatever it is. But, like, why they got to fight with everyone? I got an idea. Stop having ESPN Ocho. You have like 8 channels, 10 channels. What are we doing? Just take a couple of them off air and save money that way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just wild. It's just another football network for the most part.
Yeah, and I mean, apparently Miles says the only thing ESPN does half okay is Formula One coverage.
Okay.
Miles has watched 100% more Formula One coverage than I have, because I don't think I've ever seen Formula One coverage. Granted, I don't watch ESPN, but I don't know. Martin says, I used to watch Chris Berman in the Sports Center when they first come on. Hold on a second.
Back. Oh! It's back. Yikes. Stop it.
Back in the heyday, man, like, Berman was awesome. I mean,
Stuart Scott.
Katie can't stand him, but Stuart Scott, even some of those guys are still around, Kenny Mayne. But even like Van Pelt's still around. You know what I mean? I know I'm missing some guys. What's his name's got all his own stuff now. Why is his name leaving my mind? Dan Patrick?
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, it's crazy. But I don't know why they had to fight with everyone. And this was one we didn't know we were going into. Nice way to bring that up. So, yeah. Who knows? All right. So, I mean, let's get into World Series a little bit and then get on from that. I mean, this is a baseball pod, and the pinnacle, as I said, of the 2025 season is now, as we're wrapping up. The only two teams left, the Blue Jays and the Dodgers, and that started on Friday. Game 1, absolute Blue Jay offensive outburst, a statement, loud atmosphere. Wow, that was awesome. Mm-hmm. The game got out of hand, but there was still enough of it to say, like, that was an impressive Game 1. I like the games to be closer, but you know what I mean? First, Addison Barger hits the first ever World Series pinch hit grand slam. Never, I was like, certainly that's happened before. Can somebody fact check that? Never happened before. A 9-run 6th inning.
Off Anthony Bonda, too.
Off former Bucko Anthony Bonda. You got to love it. This stuff just writes itself. Blake Snell gives up 5 in 5 innings, and exactly what you think you can do against Blake Snell. And then the vulnerable bullpen of the Dodgers cough up 6 more runs. And that's the thing. When you look at it, I was on the fan forum on Thursday, Pirates fan forum with Gary. If you guys don't listen to that or didn't get to listen to this Thursday, go back and listen. But it's not a clear picture that the Dodgers win this thing because their bullpen.
Yeah.
And really both teams, but more so the Dodgers. They really have bullpen issues. If you can keep it close, you've got a pretty good chance to beat that team. And then you go to Game 2, and exactly what the Dodgers need to happen is Yamamoto complete game. There is no bullpen.
Just shoved. So good the whole night. Just manipulating the zone, moving all his pitches. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, the fork ball, whatever, you know what I mean? Just tons of ground balls. 8 strikeouts, too. And that's the thing, like, the Blue Jays in that first game struck out 4 times. Which is kind of like, that's bizarre for a game today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, you know, that's something to keep an eye on. But they struck out 8 times in the second game. And Will Smith, Max Muncy, homers in the 7th. The game really was Yamamoto. It was close for a long time. They added 2 in the 7th, 2 in the 8th to make it 5-1, 6-1, 5-1.
5-1.
So that was kind of the big thing. All that kind of happened right there. And then the rest of it was just watching Yamamoto carve up the Blue Jays offense, which has been so good. I mean, 11 runs in the first game. So Game 3 tomorrow night. They're on their way to LA now. Game 3 tomorrow night is Max Scherzer, Tyler Glasnow, another former Bucko. Game 4, Shane Bieber versus Shohei Ohtani, so a future Bucko and Shohei. I mean, I'm assuming we're signing him after he's a free agent, right? 1-year deal when he's 53 years old or something. I don't know. I'm just kidding. Game 4, Bieber Ohtani. Dude, Ohtani's their 4th starter.
I don't even understand that because he has not been that good of a hitter the day after he pitches. So you would think they'd want him starting Game 5 so you could have that off day.
Oh, that's a good call out.
But they haven't done it yet. So I don't know why they would start in the World Series.
Wow, Miles put this in there. Game 1 for the Blue Jays. They had more hits than they had whiffs. That's what this team is, man.
Yeah. That's crazy.
They're a tough at bat. And they just continue to do it. So Game 5 will be Wednesday.
Which makes what
go ahead.
Yamamoto did even more impressive too.
Right.
with
Well,
the 8 Ks.
Do you think? Yeah, the 8 Ks is crazy.
He struck out the side in the 8th inning, didn't he? 7th or 8th inning, he struck out the side.
Yeah. And maybe that's a testament to kind of the way he pitches, though, too. Like maybe perfect against that team is most of the time he's inducing contact on the ground. And then late, he had to just, he still had bullets to go. Now let me turn it on. Now let me up the Ks. You know what I'm saying? That's what the Dodgers are going to need in order. It's so surprising when you got all these superstars on offense. 3 MVPs. I mean, I guess Ohtani is on both, but and it's going to come down to, if they're going to win this World Series, it's going to come down to how long the starting pitchers can go, which is why like the Scherzer Glasnow game, like Glasnow's also susceptible to only going 5 innings like Blake Snell. And so if Scherzer keeps that close, you've got a chance there. And then Bieber Ohtani, a little bit of the same thing with Ohtani, but he could go a little bit deeper too.
Could.
You got Sasaki at the end, it's good, but in between that, I don't know, man. So, good stuff. Good stuff with the World Series right now. Series tied 1-1. That's what you want to see. But you don't want to see a Game 7, right?
Mm-mm.
We're just not interested in a Game 7.
We need to keep that with us.
Yep, that needs to be only Pirates, right? The Game 7 walk-off home run, only been done once ever. We want to keep it that way so that we can hold on to that. All right, let's get into this Justin Horowitz stuff. If you don't know, this is Pirates baseball. The World Series is going on, and we're talking about the director of amateur scouting for the Pittsburgh Pirates because the offseason hasn't officially started yet. So this is the kind of news that we are presented with to talk about. So the director of amateur scouting, Justin Horowitz, was hired away by the Washington Nationals as an assistant GM, which is, that's a better title. We talked about this before. There were rumblings of Ben Cherington leaving and wondering if Justin Horowitz had the opportunity to maybe take over as GM. Like that's the way people were talking about him.
Yeah.
And now he's going to be an assistant GM. Now the Pirates have, I think, 4 assistant GMs. So it's not like they would say like, oh, we'll just make you an assistant GM here too. But if you aspire to be a GM, assistant GM would be a good place to be, because that's going to look better on your resume than director of amateur scouting. All right. So why is everyone talking about this? I mean, I alluded a little bit to it right there, but I got a couple notes here just to keep it quick in case you've been listening to other shows and they've already talked about this kind of stuff. But Justin Horowitz has been praised specifically for his impact on the draft the last 2 years. From outside the organization and from within. They've said this, right? Which is probably the more interesting thing that we care about is when they are talking about somebody's voice in the room. Ben could have just taken credit, but instead there was a lot of attention going here to somebody that you specifically usually just don't hear. You know what I mean? Guys like this. Devil's advocate is that there are many people in the room, and that one guy is not going to make a big difference, right? But I will say that like praise doesn't get thrown around to somebody in this position just because the room was making an impact. You know what I mean? Like there had to be a voice in there, and you're talking about the guy who drafted Connor Griffin. I mean, obviously Cherington, but like this is the guy. He's probably looking to him, the director of amateur scouting, more than anyone else. He's got the loudest voice in that room.
Sure.
And so he says Connor Griffin's the guy, which was not an easy call. I go back to saying, now he wasn't there for the Skeens draft, but I go back even to saying like everybody says, well, yeah, the guy like Cherington drafted Paul Skeens. What an easy decision. Technically, that was not an easy decision. That was pretty split. A lot of people still believe that you never take a pitcher 1-1. And so that was not a simple decision to take Skeens. It certainly is in hindsight. And we all have a different memory of how we thought about that at the time. I know that I went back and forth. Ultimately, I believe I wanted Skeens, but there was definitely like a time where I was like, I don't know if I want to do a pitcher and then he's going to be hurt. And you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You just never know.
I was leaning Cruz.
It seems foolish at this point to say that that's what you thought. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, Bucko Mike, in all of his endeavors as GM, he always takes an ace 1-1. He also brings up the first or the two picks that he had in the first round were Griffin and Seth Hernandez, who already is looking like he's going to move quickly. Incredible talent.
Mm-hmm.
Martin saying he wanted Langford. So, I mean, I liked Wyatt Langford, I think, more than Dylan Cruz just because the power potential was there, even though Cruz probably all around looked like the better guy.
Yeah. And
there were some other guys, obviously, like the thing about his drafts is there are guys throughout the drafts. Levi Sterling's number 12 prospect. He was a comp pick. Second round pick Wyatt Sanford's already the number 10 prospect. Hit 4 home runs in Bradenton in his first year. Josh Hartle, who was drafted third round, 83 overall, was instrumental in the Spencer Horowitz trade from Cleveland, sending him over, right? 2.74 ERA so far in the minors for him. Will Taylor in the 5th round, 831 OPS between Bradenton and Greensboro this year, 14 homers. He's in the Arizona Fall League right now. Like they're sending him to the Arizona Fall League. You don't just send anyone there.
Right.
So there's something there. 7th round pick in 2024, the 204th pick, a pitcher, I'm not sure how you say that last name, Connor Wheatgreff, went through 3 levels, 26 starts and 116 innings in his first full season. Now he's 23, he's a college guy, 3.10 ERA. Like, tell me what kind of a weapon when you already have a guy who's thrown 116.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty good chance you're going to see him Altoona to Indianapolis next year.
Good possibility.
And you're talking about a guy who was picked in the 7th round. Even a 9th round guy had an OPS over 800 in Greensboro and Altoona. Each and combined, obviously.
Right.
So crazy. And then this year, Seth Hernandez, number 3 prospect. Murph Gray in the 2nd round, number 23 prospect. 3rd round, a number 20 prospect, Easton Carmichael. 4th round, Gustavo Melendez, number 26 prospect. Some of this I would consider as recency bias. You know what I'm saying? Like, as soon as somebody's drafted, they like to throw them in there. However, it's still there. In the 9th round, Jared Jones, the hitter, was picked. He's the 27th prospect. He played 15 games in Greensboro this year for his first, minor league action. 4 home runs in 15 games. I mean, there's something to build on there, right? There's some power. I mean, there's dudes that, you don't know if all these guys are going to work out, but the point is to see that many guys out of a draft, specifically the 24 draft. You got those kind of guys that are coming through.
With our pitching development, I see a lot of these pitchers making it, at least making some type of impact on our roster via making some starts, making some appearances out of the bullpen, being a trade chip, any of those ways. But recently, we've had some really good developmental pitching prospects. So, you get a guy like Seth Hernandez and let's go. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got a 7th round pick.
You're feeling pretty good about it.
Into a 3.10 ERA. I like it. But that's the other thing too, Josh. You do have to pick the guys, but you also have to develop them. And that's what I'm seeing has been really good, has been the pitching development team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to speak for hitters. Not going to do that. But our
even
pitching development-
then, we've started to see some of it. Starting to.
Sure. But it's been pitching.
Right.
Pitching heavy in the development team. So, yes, you have to pick the right guys for the development team to work well.
Right.
Be able to work with. But at the end of the day, there was a lot of other guys. The loudest voice, yes, but there was a lot of other voices too.
Okay.
And how much impact did he have on the guys around him as far as they are learning? They learned what he knew.
That's a good point too. If there was something there, is there some kind of fingerprints that he can leave behind that are gonna help the rest of the guys that are there? Bucko Mike, can you shed some light on this? Because Brandon Bidwell has been with the Pirates since 2019. Was Horowitz around? I don't think that those guys. Yeah. And you know what? Martin brings up a good thing. Was Horowitz responsible for Florentino? A lot of times there are international scouts who are different than this, but I imagine he's director of all of it. So I would imagine there's something there. But Bidwell, I'm not sure. I feel like he's been here since before he would have had an impact on that. But if I'm missing something, like if he just was in a different role with us, I'm not sure. So there might be something I don't know there about his history. But yeah, listen, I'll just say this, Jake, and because I know that there's been a little bit of in what you're saying is maybe hopeful, or hey, maybe I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid right now, that this isn't a huge impact. There's not a lot of things said about this organization positively, right? Specifically from outside, that's not the cool thing to do right now. No one offers free marketing for the Pirates. It's kind of in today's narrative-driven sports culture, the Pirates should only be talked poorly about. That's just the kind of rule of thumb that everybody's going with right now. So the fact that they're talking good about him, that's something there. And thanks, Buck and Mike cleared this up. Horowitz told Pirates development team to strip him down and told him to go relief only. So that was maybe his voice speaking into that too. So you don't know how much he goes and overlaps into the development if he is doing something like that, where he's, part of that is, hey, this is something I think should happen, and he'll be better for it. So if that's the case, if you don't know who Brandon Bidwell is, look him up. We've talked about him before on this show, but pretty good chance this dude is playing for the Pirates next year at some point. I look to see him protected on the 40-man roster this winter, and the numbers that he put up are crazy. If he continues that, he'll be in Pittsburgh before too long. So anyway, maybe putting a little bit of the fire out, Jake, but maybe, obviously anytime you lose somebody good, it's significant.
Sure.
Are you buying or are you selling here that this is a big impact?
I think it's
without going in between.
Yeah. It's definitely an impact. I'm not going to say that it's not an impact.
There's some people really upset about this. Are we going that far?
I'm not, because I think the development team is still there.
You can't develop talent that doesn't exist. We've had trouble drafting in the past. These drafts have gone well. There's still a lot of work to do. Wyatt Sanford might be the number 10 prospect, and he might look good, but we have, you know what I mean? He still has to develop. And there's some of Connor Griffin's game that has to develop, although I'd be lying if I wasn't 100% believing that. Yeah, I don't know. I think that it's really interesting, and I think that we'll see how it goes. You're going to see another draft this summer, and there's probably going to be things that are, I guess we won't really know until maybe after the year after that or something. You know what I mean? Like we had a lot less to say about the 25 draft because what do you have? They're the number this prospect. They haven't played.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let's see what they do next year. Let's see how they pan out. I mean, it's, I don't know. The draft has been frustrating for the Pirates. They've gone really well the last couple of years. It'll be interesting to see how it goes moving forward without Justin Horowitz. But Martin says the draft is loaded too. And a lot of things in the chat here saying that the 4 assistant GMs that are there now aren't any good and they should have just let them go and moved them up and all, you know, that's all fine. So Nats didn't want any of the 4 assistant GMs the Pirates have speak volumes. So for a little background too, the Nats just got a new GM or president of baseball ops. What is it? Either way, they did hire the GM.
I think so. Taboni or Treboni.
Yeah, that's right. That's the name. Anyway, they were both in, and I'm gonna already forget. They were both in Boston together in the scouting team, and Horowitz worked for him on that team. And so this is just him getting his guys too.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily like it's this guy's GM. He needs to be the assistant GM, and so he hired him to work under him, just like somebody else that he hired in the same type of thing. It was a guy who worked with or alongside him in Boston too. So that makes a lot more sense when you think of it that way. It's like, no, these guys have a history, and they're going to do this thing together. So I'm not all the way putting out the fire. I feel like they lost a good. I think they feel like they lost a good asset here.
Yeah,
but at the same time, you know, that's where we're at. All right. I'm going to need the chat in this one because there's going to be a lot of cool things that we could talk about here for the rest of this show, basically, because I feel like this conversation goes long every time you bring it up. And so we've moved pretty well. We started to talk a little bit about this last week as we were touching on things. We were talking about this over time and all these things. And right now, the talk of the town is still, until we get to the offseason, Jake, we get to the offseason, we're going to have things to talk about. And hopefully we can put this thing to bed for a while. It's going to come up again. We're going to talk about this at length, but now's as good a time as ever to continue to talk about cap system stuff. Okay. 2027 is coming. We're going to play out 2026. If there's a big fight and there's a tough thing, Jake, would it surprise you if there's a lockout or a strike in the middle of 2026? Like, that could happen.
That would surprise me.
It's happened before.
Yeah, I know. But it would surprise me today.
Okay. So
I think if they get to that point, I think they'll shut down like all negotiations, but I think they'll play out the 26th season.
Yeah, I think if it's something like that, it's strike. I don't think. I think in our conversations on Thursday too. I don't know if it was on or off air, but you know, Gary kind of mentioned like it'll never be a lockout in the middle of a season. You know what I mean? Like that's not going to happen. The owners are not going to stop a season.
Yeah,
they don't want to lose that money. That would be the players jumping the gun. I think the players should be smarter than that. Miles says he's thinking that it might have been like August 12th, 94. So you just never know, man. If it's, you know, they're talking in the background and stuff like that. And if something like that would come up, man, that would be terrible. I don't think baseball, while I also believe that baseball's in great shape, everybody says baseball's dying. Well, I don't know about dying. Like, it's becoming less popular. It was the number one sport. It's not anymore. It hasn't been for a minute. But
yeah,
like, dying is a strong word. Like, it's not dying. It's
Right.
fine. As a matter of fact, it's been doing really well lately. So in certain metrics, right?
Mhm.
You lose a World Series or something like that, man, it's just going to hurt. It does every time. So I think it'd be fair to talk a little bit about what it could look like if something like this does happen, right? Boy, Martin, I'm going to save that one. Bucko Mike, first off, confirms it was August 11th. Martin, I'm going to save that one because that's literally something that might be part of what we're talking about here. I will conditionalize what we're about to say again. These things are things that we're thinking. We have no idea what kind of path they will go down during negotiations, but we just want to kind of like, I've dropped in things here, I've dropped in things there, I've said things, and it's maybe been a little bit out of context or something that we didn't chase down a rabbit hole and talk about. And so I thought we need to just do this. We just need to lay some of this stuff out and talk about it just to kind of get a better understanding of what we think is possible and what we think is done before. So anyway, I've said it before. I'll continue to say it until I see it happen. Otherwise, a cap system, it's important to say cap system at this point. A cap system will undoubtedly look different in Major League Baseball than it does in any of the other sports. There's no way that it will look like anything else that we've seen before just because of what's already in place. And we know that there are polarizing things on both sides of this. And we're going to talk about a few things that we think is maybe happening, but like we have no idea what owners and players are going to present in the middle of this thing. And sometimes owners don't even know what they're going to present. If maybe the players come with something or vice versa. I just use that as an example. If the players or the owners come with something and it's like, oh, geez, if you want that, then we're going to have to get creative and they'll bring something else to the table, right? So that's the way things go. So let's level set. Let's talk about what we have right now in baseball, because I think this is really interesting. It's something that people miss on the whole thing. A couple of these things, maybe not. Maybe everybody listening here right now is certainly smart enough. I mean, we're all here instead of watching the Steelers, or maybe we're watching it on another TV. But either way, let's level set. So does baseball have a cap right now? Yeah, you could say they do. They have a tax threshold that works like a soft cap. If you go over it, you owe money. And so there is some sort of cap, but there's no floor. Well, there is kind of a floor. You get a certain amount of shared revenue. You have to spend that amount of your own money on payroll. So if you receive $20 million in shared revenue, I'm going to use a lot of like general statements. I'm going to try to actually make them far away from reality, just to say like I'm doing round numbers that are easy to add. But also just because if I think I'm close and I'm not, then that way I'm not like, dude, you're way off. So if you get $20 million of shared revenue money, then your payroll has to at least be $40 million. Like that's what the current floor is. But you have to at least spend that over a 3-year span. If you're 3 years not spending that money, you start to lose shared revenue. It is not really a floor. You know what I'm saying? And the Pirates are not below that. So you know that the Pirates are only getting, if they spent $90 million this year, there's a good chance they're only receiving $45 million in shared revenue, because we know they're possibly on the lower end of that.
Dang it, Bobby.
So with that said, there's shared revenue. The baseball does a lot of things to try to help with competitive balance. I think a lot of people in Pittsburgh would say they're failing. But I'm not going to get into all of it because I don't know all of it. But as a general rule, we can talk about these things as saying you get tax threshold payments, you get general percentage payments from national TV money, whatever else. Probably merchandise, jersey sales, things like that. Probably those things nickel and dime, and they have a shared revenue system that they can spread out. There's probably a lot of things that peg into that. There's no point in bringing it all up. We don't need to go into that kind of detail.
Yeah.
The thing about a salary cap system is that it always has a floor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, what we have right now is not a salary cap system. However, there are competitive balance efforts in place to create something that looks like it, but it's not there. If you hear people say we don't need a cap, we need a floor, they're essentially saying that they need a salary cap system and they don't realize it. So it's the same thing. You get a floor with a salary cap system. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about that. And the last thing I'll say here before we start getting into a lot of these things, and maybe this is all part of it still, maybe it's not last. You can't just flip a switch and have a cap system. I talked about the shared revenue. That pot is relatively small right now. The first thing that has to happen in order to even create a system like this is that pot has to get very big.
Yeah.
The bigger the pot, the better chance you have of getting this thing done correctly, right? National TV revenue is not going to cut it, especially when ESPN's saying they're not going to pay what MLB wants. So they're going to try to shove that into something else. I don't really know. Once that's done, you'll either have a better idea of what that pot will look like or, whatever. Right now, everyone receives certain parts of shared revenue. Not everyone does. In a cap system, there will be parts that everyone will receive, and it will be the same amount. So, which that probably won't be entirely true either, but we'll get into it. Jake, let's talk about some of these things. And I think probably the easy thing to start with, and in the chat, if you have anything, I want to say this, like if you've heard me say anything over the course of time, like throw it into the chat and ask me about it, because just so I don't forget to bring it up. Because I've probably said things that you might have said at one point. That's ridiculous, man. I can't believe that you said that, but I didn't go into it. So bring that up, and then maybe I've changed my mind on it. Maybe, maybe we'll talk about it. Either way. So let's talk about the cap versus floor kind of things, Jake. I said baseball undoubtedly will look different. I think the first thing I'd say is whatever cap that goes in place is going to be a soft cap. You agree with that?
I do.
So a soft cap meaning you can spend more than the cap. They essentially have something like that right now where there's a threshold.
Yeah.
And NBA has a soft cap. There are stipulations on what you can go over that cap with, retaining players. I don't know what all the rules are. I don't care about the NBA. So the thing is that they have something in place where it allows you to go over that. I would be shocked if baseball just doesn't allow you to go over it, period. If Cohen wants to go over the threshold, have at it. You can sign Ohtani and Soto, Dodgers and Mets. You can sign those guys for $700 million contracts. We're all good here. The players are probably going to fight for something like that.
Yeah.
The NHL has a maximum yearly salary that you can pay a player. That's not going to happen.
Nope.
So there's certain things there that as they push forward and they fight for this, sorry, just trying to get this cough drop out of my way, man. Also trying to keep my voice here. Just to make sure I don't dry out. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm with you on most of this. There's no way they come in with a hard cap. There's no way that they don't allow the teams that do have more resources, because they're still going to want to keep. Well, the NFL is what, 89? It was we talked about 89% of the cap is their floor.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get anywhere close to that in baseball. There's going to be a big gap. So the competitive balance stuff with a threshold and kicking money back, like all that, like charging tax, like that is still going to exist in a baseball form, a salary cap system. The maximum player thing is never going to happen.
The maximum salary.
The maximum salary, yeah, is never going to happen. Yeah, the players are still going to. I don't want to say it quite like this because it'll sound maybe a little harsh, but they've waited too long. They're the way baseball is set up right now. You can't go backwards necessarily. In time. Like,
so you're saying that they waited too long to put a salary cap in?
Yes, but not that I was an advocate for it either. Like I didn't care. It's just we've gotten to the point where we're paying players so much money in Major League Baseball that building a salary cap system is going to be very tricky and difficult.
So I said this too, like we're talking even whatever's built, right? And Martin says maybe they start with a soft cap and phase in a stricter one. Listen, I just don't think it fits to have a hard cap. Even if you create, and we're going to get into maybe like shared revenue stuff too. Well, we definitely will. But like even with shared revenue stuff, there are going to be teams that make more money than other teams, and they're going to want to spend that money. And so I think the stricter one that you're referencing might be just higher taxes. And so continue to put strict taxes. If you want to go beyond the cap, right? Then we'll allow you to. But and I guess I don't know where this is in my notes, but we'll go ahead and jump into it here. But like at some point you have a portion of shared revenue that is, I mean, I'm sure they'll break shared revenue down into X amount of pieces, right? So you're going to have national TV shared revenue. You're going to have, and we'll get into this later, but like regional TV shared revenue. You're going to have this shared this piece, and it's all going to be spread out, right? And then there's going to be a piece of it that is, if you're over it, then you pay that tax. That's currently in place right now. All that tax money gets dispersed to the teams who are receiving shared revenue. And so there's going to be certain levels of shared revenue, the way they do it now, to keep what they have sort of in place. They've got groundwork for all of this. The pot just needs to get huge. They need to create a higher floor. And so what you do is you essentially put this in a place where you can say, we're going to heavily tax it, not year over year. I don't care how many years you blow past it. You're getting the ultimate tax right now. You want to go over it, you pay a tax. And actually, for my thought is, as a Pirates fan, somebody who's going to live around the floor, just based on general revenue and anyway, if you're a team that's going to live around that floor, you want those teams to sign Ohtani for $46 million a year because, one, it means they're going to get to that cap sooner. Two, they're going to hit over it and they're going to start paying taxes, putting more money in your pocket. And as a fan, the more money that goes into that pot, the higher that floor can raise. Keep putting money into that pot. The more money you put into it, if we can get, and here's what I would say, that portion of shared revenue should be like, there should be a portion that's reserved for people receiving payments, which this exists already. There are a portion of people who receive payments, a portion of people who do not. That portion of shared revenue you forfeit by going over the cap, and you pay into that. So the money that they would be receiving goes back into the pot. The tax money that they pay goes into the pot. And all of a sudden you've got another, we don't know what the money's going to be. Let's say you got another $10 million to spend if there's X amount of teams that go over that number. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what you want to see. And so you might take the cap and these are, I told you I'm going to go with 10s. I'm going to go with like 25s. I'm going to go with very simple numbers because I'm not interested in talking about what those numbers might be, but I'm just giving examples. So if the floor was 150 and you have 5 teams over, that might push the floor to 160. And those are two numbers. Just like I said, though, I'm not talking about what the floor is going to be, but just for the sake of the conversation, 150, 160 is not a number that the Pirates could reasonably pay right now. They could not operate with a payroll of 150 million without severely working from a deficit. They could do it for a year, right? But then it better blow up after that, because there's no way it could work. And so that's one of the things that, like, it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be really interesting. Miles says, how could a cap system spill into the minors? Would there be a reduction in levels and less players, or would a cap system only be applicable to major league rosters? This is another reason why baseball just cannot look like anything else. My guess, and I am not the all-knowing here, but my guess would be it would only be based on the major league payroll. I think minor leagues will continue to operate with a certain amount of money that's kind of reserved for those levels, and then that is what it is. I think this is going to be applied to major league level. But side note, if there is a lockout, Jake, or a strike, the minor league players are now in the players union. So we won't even get minor league baseball.
So I had to look it up because I have no idea.
Sure.
But NBA has the G League or something like that. Not really a minors.
Okay.
A little bit separate. The NFL has the practice squad.
Yeah.
They don't really have minors.
Right.
The only one of the other major sport that I think has minor leagues is hockey.
Mm-hmm.
So I just looked it up, and the sending a player to the minors can save the NHL teams on salary cap space. So
yeah,
in the NHL, it does not go to the minors. The salary cap is strictly for the professional roster.
And that goes with the system
Major
that's in
roster,
baseball
whatever.
right now. So that's a good call out. With the system in Major League Baseball right now, you have to spend a certain amount of payroll. That's Major League payroll. So at the end of the year, they're going to look at that and say, we want to make sure that you spent that much in payroll, right? The other thing, just to throw that out there, it's a good thing that this is all brought up. With a salary cap system, we will get numbers. We will know what they spent. Right now, we have Ethan, but most people don't have Ethan. So we've got a pretty good idea here. Most teams do not. Now, Ethan's doing it for across the board. So actually, you could, right? Because he's starting to develop that as well. But it's very difficult. And basically, they would have to present this stuff anyway. And smart people like Ethan would probably be hired to do some of this stuff. Anyway, yeah, Martin says we could be watching college baseball if they strike. Absolutely. You're going to be. So that's going to be a thing. It'll be interesting to see, like, if the World Baseball Classic is affected and things like that too, because that's coming up in, well, I guess that's in 2026, isn't it?
Yeah, that's this year.
So it won't be
next year.
It won't be. Okay, so let me look at my notes here and say, so I still say, like, that soft cap thing, I think that's a baseball thing. I think it's going to be a baseball thing. I think they're just going to heavily tax those teams, and they're going to forfeit a portion of that shared revenue as a result of going above. But what it does is it allows them to do that if they want. The Dodgers are going to continue to make more money with Ohtani on your team, like all that stuff too. Like the money that they make off of Ohtani is they're probably going to continue to make. So there's things like that too that that are at play here. But I think they're going to continue to allow that because I think the players, that's going to be a really big sticking point for them.
Speaking of Ohtani, though, I think they will do something about the deferred money. I don't necessarily think they'll say that you can't do that.
Yeah.
But I think you'll get hit with what the actual contract should look like.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
sense.
the prorated stuff goes away and they actually get hit with 70 million instead of 46.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know he's only making 2.
Because
but
I feel like the deferred payment is like a player's choice. Kind of like, hey, I just won the lottery. Do you want one lump sum or do you want it in installments? I want it in installments. To me, that's a player's choice, not a team choice. The team agreed to sign him for X amount of dollars. How it's dispersed,
it should be today's money.
They should get hit with what, and then they should be paying the tax or whatever on that money now.
Right. Yep. I agree with that. And so that, I mean, yeah, that's another thing that I didn't even really think about is how did they change deferred contracts? moving forward?
I think,
like what does that end up looking like? And I think you're right. It's going to have something to do with just what they owe in the tax and what's on the books as what is your payroll. Because right now their payroll for Ohtani is like 46 point something. Because it's prorated to when he's going to get paid. It's like an assumption of inflation. And so he's only making $2 million of real money, but he's on the books for 46. And like, you could say like, no, he should just be on the books for 70, which would really increase that number that they have for their tax threshold by 35 million. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Basically the Dodgers should be contractually obligated to pay the $70 million that year. Now it would go to this other disbursement agency. They would disperse it to Ohtani in the increments that he wants it in. Like,
and that's how it is. It goes into escrow. They're paying it.
Yeah. So they should be hit with that. That should be what they're.
But it's prorated, and so the way that they do it is they still gain interest on it, and the money that sits in that account, basically they only have to show it once. And then they can pull it back out of that account and invest it. And then whenever they have to show it again, they can say, there's $700 million in a bank account still. We're going to pay it all. You know what I mean? That's why they're the only team that can do that, because they've got to have a bank account with that much money in it for the end of the contract. Like they have to show they're good for it. Anyway, the floor, the floor stuff. And you've already brought up some of this to saying like, wherever that gap is going to be pretty large, because it's all going to depend on how big that shared revenue pot can get.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're telling me that the Pirates, a team who are around, 90 million with some good teams or with good players on it. I mean, just think about this. The Brewers, right around 120 this year. Imagine what they could do with just another 30 million.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking about a team who was one step away from the deal, right? And from the championship series. $30 million. What could you do with that? That could be a big deal. What if it's not 150? What if it's 175? That's a lot of, that's like two big time starters.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That you're going to, all of a sudden, the Brewers are going to be able to play in free agency to get some of those guys. What could that do to make things a little more interesting? So, the floor, if you do something like that, and we talk about the, how much is in that pot, that floor can also move based on what happened the year before. Hey, there's now this much money in the pot. And so that floor moves with that money. You know what I'm saying? And you'll have a certain amount of time, and they have to set it. It'll be a year behind. You know what I'm saying? But they'll be able to set it at a certain number and say, you have to hold to that. They've got to say it ahead of time so that you can prepare for that in the offseason. At the end of the World Series, they say that the floor is this for next year based on what happened this year. You know what I mean? And then if it goes up, then it goes up the next year, whatever. I mean, you have to be able to plan for that in the offseason. But with a moving floor like that, I think that's good. Even without moving the cap, you could move the floor.
Sure.
I guess you could call it the ceiling. You know what I'm saying? Floor and ceiling might be the way that you go. And then if you go beyond the ceiling, it's that tax and the forfeit of shared revenue and things like this. Martin brings up a good point. What happens to the floor when a team rebuilds?
I think you're going to see rebuilds a lot differently.
You would, because you would
they won't be able to strip it completely down.
Right.
Because you're going to have to stay above that floor.
A rebuild probably looks a lot more like going out and signing Tommy Pham to play Major League Baseball and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa to play Major League Baseball. Not that these guys shouldn't be bench rolls on there, but essentially what you would do is instead of paying Kutch 5 years, you'd pay $5 million. You'd pay Kutch $10 million. You'd pay Pham $10 million. You'd pay IKF. He was already getting 7.5, but $10 million. And then you'd see him go out and sign certain pitchers like Heaney for a little bit more. you would offer contracts at relievers for a little bit more, but they'd be 1-year deals. That's how you would do it for a rebuild. You would do those 1-year deals. You probably should do that in a rebuild anyway. Get major league players to play that are maybe going to be middle of the road. Sure, you're not going to probably compete for a World Series this year, but you're trying to turn some things over and reset in the minors. There is a strength to that, but you'd have to hire major league players that are, possibly some of those guys who might not get a job. Yeah. But imagine, you could still, Ben Sherrington, right? His claim to fame. He won a World Series rebuilding because he went out and he got major league players like Napoli and those guys who were major leaguers, but they just had to have something special happen to win that championship. And my timeline's probably off. I don't know if I hit the right
2018.
Era. What was it?
2018, I think.
2018. So that might have been a different. Was that Napoli and those guys, or was that the 13? 13 was when he did it.
Maybe, yeah.
Anyway, we're awesome at timelines. We're a timeline podcast. Anyway, yeah, I think you'd still have to sign players. And it probably, like I said, it would be 1-year deals, trying to get to the next year, trade those guys at the deadline if that's what you have to do. But you kind of overpay guys. The A's essentially just did this with Luis Severino. It's the easiest example, so I bring it up all the time. I apologize for being a one-trick pony. But they gave Luis Severino 3 years, $72 million. He's not worth that contract. He proved that. But he signed it because the team was offering it to him, and they were just trying to get to that point where they didn't start losing shared revenue again. They had to get to a certain point because of how much they're receiving. And so that kind of thing would still happen. But that would be a good example, though, Jake. If you didn't hit the floor, there would be a penalty. The next year, you might only get 90% of shared revenue. You know what I'm saying? You have to put a penalty on that floor that if you don't hit that floor, you will not receive shared revenue the following year.
Yeah, and you would still be responsible. Say you get 90%, you're still responsible for that next year for paying 50. What was it? 50% of?
Well, no, whatever they set the floor to be, because that 50% of thing would probably go away at this point.
True. Yeah.
Unless that's how they build the floor, but I think that they would probably just set a floor because everybody should be getting generally the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be per team in the same way, right? So it's going to be, you're all getting the same amount of shared revenue, unless you're either below the floor and you lose some of that, or you're above the ceiling and you lose some of that. You know what I mean? But still, the floor was the floor. You've got to hit it. And the players are going to be the team or the people that bring something like that up to say, no, I want these guys to know that if I have a free agent out there that's in my players association and he's not getting signed because he's maybe worth a little too much than his value holds or something like that, then they want some team to say, I'll give you $10 million so we can have more money, or so that we can get to that floor. That's the incentive for the players. You're going to get more payment that way. Yeah. Another way they could get the floor up there is minimum salaries, but maybe we'll talk about that in a minute. We want to rush through this next thing. Shared revenue, basically make the pot bigger. I think we don't have to go into that. Basically, the shared revenue process, it's in place now. You have to figure out a way to get the pot bigger. So regional broadcast contracts need to be centralized in some way. If it's half the money, if it's all the money, if it's all the whatever it is, there has to be a way that you centralize that kind of money. That's a huge gap in what the Dodgers are making and the Yankees are making versus what the Pirates are making. If you can get all of that TV money, not just the national stuff, which doesn't really account for a ton when you spread it out. If you can get all that stuff and get an even across the board, that's how you can build that pot up. And that's probably something that Martin kind of said, incrementally get to a certain thing with the cap or with the penalties or whatever. That's the kind of thing you're going to see in shared revenue. You'll see a little bit at a time. It's going to take 10 years, maybe 5 years to 10 years to really get this thing to the end game.
Yeah.
But it's going to be, because grandfathered contracts are going to be in place and you're going to have to honor those and not, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's fine. All the players will get all that. What else will the players or the owners try to get? And there's one big one that I want to say before we get out of here. And I know this is, we're at the peak of this thing running long, but minimum salary going up is one of them, right? And that's going to be an easy way to get to that floor a little bit easier. Is right now players, it takes them 3 years to even make $1 million in a year, right? That's probably going to change. The biggest one for me, and this is the one that I think is mega big, that I think the players will get in this process, is you're going to have less years of team control. Right now, the average age, I looked this up, the average age for rookies in their first year in 2025 was 25 and a half, right? So if you take that average age, and let's even lower it one, Jake, let's even say 24 years old is your rookie season. And that's going a little bit like, that is definitely like, we're in the minority here, but there's a lot more minority up at the top. So let's say 24 years old, you have 6 years of control. That player goes to free agency at 30. So when you think of a player saying, I'm hitting free agency for the first time in 30, and you think, oh, 30, they're on the wrong side. Well, no, that's the normal side. Most players don't get to free agency until post 30 years old. Most players, right? And so hitting it at 30 is pretty normal. There are some superstars that break into the league at 19, 20, 21, 22 years old that get to free agency early. Good for them. But right now, the process for players is, when I go to free agency, that's my chance to make money that I could have made in my career already. And all the good things that I've done and been way more valuable than my salary, I'm recouping some of that. And then also moving forward, making sure that I'm taking, you get one chance, a lot of these players. If you get free agency at 32, you have one chance as a major league player to make your money. And so if they're going to agree to something like this, you better believe that that team control is going to 5 or 4. Probably not lower than 4. But like, what if you only had a player for 4 years? Like, think about Paul Skeens, Jake. You only get 4 years. 2 years of minimum, 2 years of arbitration, and then he's a free agent.
So on this, my head was down a little bit. I was doing a little bit of research while you were talking about that. NBA, 4 years. NFL, 4 years. The only one's different. This one's wild. The NHL is weird, man.
Yeah.
It's wild. If you're a rookie between the ages of 18 to 21, you get a 3-year contract. If you're a rookie between 22 and 23, you get a 2-year contract. And if you're a rookie at 24, you get a 1-year contract.
And then you're at free agency already?
Then you're at free agency.
There you go.
So they break it all the way down into age and, you know.
Essentially, you're hitting free agency at what, 25, 26 years old?
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yep.
I guess unless you sign at 27.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then you're probably already a free agent because
yeah.
who's doing that? So I just think that's going to be a big deal. I think that you're probably getting to 4 or 5. And maybe it's, hey, we have everybody who's signed right now is still under the, I don't know. They probably wouldn't do that. It'd probably be effective immediately. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe players that are under 2 years get applied to the new thing. Everybody else stays to 6 until they're free agents or something like that. I don't really know. But what that will do, Jake, is that will encourage teams to sign those contracts earlier.
Yeah.
So that, you know, Connor Griffin doesn't go, or Paul Skeens doesn't go through 6. Well, he's an anomaly. We can't use that as an anomaly. But like Spencer Horowitz is going to go through 6 years of minimum contracts for 3, arbitration for 3, and he's not going to hit free agency until 33. I don't know. What's my numbers? There's 20. No, maybe 32. depending on when he actually broke into the league, because he was a little bit later, right? Trevor May did an interesting thing that really was like, yeah, I can talk, because like I've been thinking this, but it's like he's talking about how he was in the minor leagues. You have like so many years in the minor leagues before you're a minor league free agent, and he spent almost all of them. Or maybe the dude that the Rogers dude, the pitcher for the Giants, he was with the Giants for all the years, and then they had to put him on the roster, and then he was there for all 6 years, and he's finally they traded him in the last year, and he's 35 hitting free agency for the first time. He spent the maximum amount of time with the Giants organization that you could. And now he's finally hitting free agency. He's 35 years old.
Wow.
So like, just think about, maybe there is an age thing. That's actually a really good point. If you make your debut before 25, then it's 5 years of control. If it's after 25, you only get 4 years of control. That's actually a really good way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you get every player to a certain point where you could say like 29 years old, you should be hitting free agency. But also, you're increasing the pay that when they're there, because a lot of those players, Jake, we said there's less players that are in that 21 to 23 age range, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot less players, but like 22 to 28, probably your most productive players.
Yeah.
And they're the ones not getting paid. And then you got guys, making big time money like Anthony Rendon, who's not doing anything. Mike Trout, who's getting injured every year, right? And so like you have those sort of things going on in this league right now, because they're trying to make sure like you're paying for those contracts because you want the player in his prime, which I think it's still like the prime is a lot younger than it used to be. But like as far as like generally your prime really does extend until 32 or 33. I know that we like to pretend that 31 is old. It's not. Those guys are still, you're getting so much experience gained that your early 30s are some of your still most productive years. You know what I mean? Because you understand the zone better. You've been in the league longer. You're a veteran player, stuff like that. And so I think Rosati, we're about wrapping up, dude. Thanks anyway. Thanks for coming in. Jim says, I'm 38 and I'm in my prime. You know what I'm saying? I'm beyond mine. I've passed that point. I'm finding ways to still be good at slow pitch softball. But anyway, I think there is going to be there's going to be things like that are going to happen in order to get something like this in play. And I think that's probably the biggest one. There will no longer be 6 years of control if this thing happens.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And so, and like I said, that's going to encourage these teams to spend money on those players early in their career, so that like buying out, if you only have 4 years of control of a player at the major league level, buying out those first 2 years of free agency should be generally pretty easy as soon as we get on the other side of this, because they're already used to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so, when you're saying like, yeah, I'm a young player, I'm going to hit free agency at 28, you're super early to free agency. I bet I could, now that'll be 26. I guarantee I can buy those 2 years out and have you for 6 years, maybe even 3 years. If you can hit free agency before 30, but you're already getting paid, you've already done half the work.
Right.
Now, when you hit free agency, you can get paid for what you're going to be worth, and you don't have to get paid for what you were worth any longer. You know what I mean? And so I think that there's a lot of things like that. And I'm not even thinking of stuff. And there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be presented here. Who knows? Maybe we've got the whole 10-5 thing. If you know what that is, like I said, we're 10-11. I'm not going to go into detail on that stuff. That might lower. There might be something that they can figure out. I think this is on the Players Association side, so I don't know if it's possible, but maybe there's a way they figure out how to, when you get your pension, is it 10 years right now? Maybe that lowers to 8 years because of something that they do. If you could figure out a way to do that, then maybe, that's incentive too. I don't even know how that's possible because I don't know how that gets paid. But if that's something that they could do, as part of this deal, then by all means, figure something like that out. But I don't think that this is going to be a point blank, sweet, now baseball has a salary cap, flip the switch, the Dodgers can't spend money, the Pirates have to. Like, it won't work.
No.
There will be good players that you literally can't afford, and they would have to take less money. That is why the Players Association will not allow something like that to happen. Pirates won't be able to afford the floor, and players won't be able to maximize the amount of money that they can make. And so it has to look different.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on this?
Just figure it out.
Yeah. Figure it out.
Whatever it is, don't take too long.
Right.
Figure it out.
Right. There has to be something done. But and you know what? The funny thing is through all this that we've talked about, it doesn't look a whole lot different in the things that we brought up. It doesn't look a whole lot different than what's in place right now, except for the amount of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're still going to if you have a soft cap, well, you have a tax threshold right now. You're just changing the name of it. You called it a soft cap or a ceiling that you can still go beyond. And instead of calling it like something that most people don't know that there's a floor in place, it just sucks and it's very small. But now you're actually going to set a floor that a team has to get to. No more 3 years under the floor, but like if you don't hit the floor, you get less revenue next year.
Yeah.
And then maybe every year you continue to stay under the floor, you get less money. The only problem with that is there's no way out. You want there to be a way out. That's not good for baseball either. There has to be a way out.
Yeah.
So maybe you can't do that. Maybe you can't keep compiling that. But either way, there has to be a way out for teams. And I guess last thing. Oh my gosh, Martin, I didn't bring it up, and now the chat. Why does my chat history not go all the way up? I have to look over here. I won't be able to share it, but I can look over here because Martin brought up something very early, and we should close on that. Martin said, "How quick will they add expansion teams?" Oh, you got it. Oh, it was right there. It wasn't that far up. You guys are... Rosati, that's good. He says we won't miss any baseball in 27. They'll essentially just renew the current CBA. It's possible. I kind of hope not, though. But you're probably... There's a lot of truth to that could be there. Anyway, Martin, how quick will they add expansion teams? Will they take that expansion money and add it to revenue sharing to get spending up from smaller market teams? The thing is baseball really wants expansion. So I've heard a lot of people say if they put in a floor, Bob Nutting will just move the Pirates to a place where he can make money. MLB is not going to let that happen. For one reason is there's too much rich baseball history in Pittsburgh. They would love to keep Pittsburgh there. There's too much there. And I know that people say, well, there's been teams moved before. We're beyond that point. While the team was growing, yes, teams moved. Or I'm sorry, while the league was growing, teams moved more often.
Right.
That is not a common thing to happen today. They want to avoid that. Also, he is so bent up on getting expansion teams, on getting to 32 teams. You can't expand if you're taking those cities up by moving Pittsburgh to Nashville. If Pittsburgh moves to Nashville, you just lost an expansion
city.
Thank you. Market even, you know what I mean? Like you need that. You need to keep those people available. And there's Nashville, there's Salt Lake City, there's Portland, there's other places. And
others too.
And others too. Oh, Jake in the movie quotes, man. Most people aren't getting that. Almost Heroes, go watch it so you get half of our jokes. I'm going by myself. Who's going with me? Anyway, it's just not an option. Pirates aren't going anywhere. If Nutting wanted to move, I bet you Manfred would say, you have to sell the team. You can't move them. You know what I'm saying? And if you were selling the team, they would make sure that the plan wasn't to move them. This whole Oakland thing took so long because they don't want it happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They want at all costs. They don't want this to happen. And it certainly don't want it happening in a place like Pittsburgh. I don't think the Pirates are going anywhere. It is in MLB's best interest to make the Pirates a team that makes the league money, not to go anywhere else. And they already try this with shared revenue. They're already trying to make this a more balanced league. They've been doing that for a long time. They've just been failing at it.
Yeah.
They've got to find a way to get a floor in this game that's better than what they have right now and to fund that floor. Without funding it, you can't happen. Expect shared revenue to change drastically in order for any of this to work, which is probably his thought on saying they'll just renew the current CBA. If they can't make the pot bigger, the shared revenue pot, if they can't make it bigger, they can't put in a $150 million floor or a $175 million floor, certainly not a $200 million floor. There's not enough money to make that happen.
Right.
You'd have 5 cities immediately say, I'm done. And baseball doesn't want that. They want to expand to 2 more. So I'm glad you brought that up, Martin, because I think that's a huge part of this that is going to be a sticking point to say, if we want to expand, we have to figure out a way to fund all of this stuff that we want to do.
Yeah.
All right, let's get out of here. Let me recap this, Jake. Soft cap is going to stay in place. Tax on everybody that goes over that ceiling. Tax them hard, and they lose a portion of shared revenue. The Dodgers will have absolutely no problem with that. They will exceed the cap. They'll continue to pay players. So will Steve Cohen and the Mets. They'll continue to do it. They will go beyond that ceiling. And as a Pirates fan, the more they go beyond that ceiling and pay a percentage of that, they pay that tax, the more money that goes to the floor. That's exactly what we want. I have no problem with them spending money because it means that there will be more in the pot for the Pirates to spend. They will forfeit some shared revenue. They will pay a tax on top of that, more in the pot. That's exactly what needs to happen. And in order to create a higher floor, you have to fund it. So the floor will be in place. It'll be a more hard and fast floor, and we'll actually know what it is. It won't be a per team floor. It'll be a per league floor. That's a big difference right now than what we have in place right now. It'll be per league. Everybody gets this. We're going to set the floor here. Everybody has to hit there. So the floor gets bigger. Shared revenue has to get bigger for any of it to happen, and expect things like higher minimum salaries and less team control in order to make this happen. Paul Skeens doesn't get 6 years in Pittsburgh after this. Paul Skeens gets 4. But you're going to have more money to extend Paul Skeens to try to get more out of that, right?
Yeah.
So there's ways to do all of it, and I just think that it's not too far away, and I think that this is. Let me rephrase that, because I think that it's very hard to get it into place. That's not what I mean. The agreement is very far away.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is like there's already groundwork laid. First off, just what Jim says, every other league already has made the blueprint. Right? And it works. And I think one of the biggest things to say proven it works is, as far as like total revenue of the league, the percentage of that revenue that gets paid to players is actually higher in other leagues. Just in general. Right? And so like of course it's spread out, but that's the difference. And so what baseball has in place right now, with not a whole lot of work, make the shared revenue pot bigger. You can still have a soft cap at the top like they currently have, except I think it just needs to be one percentage, and it's a strict percentage. This is your tax. Pay into it. I don't care if it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years over that. I don't mind you going over that. And there's a section of shared revenue that you forfeit by going over the cap that gets put back in the pot to make the floor higher. I mean, it's a doable thing that doesn't seem crazy, but I think it's going to come with some other things involved, and more power to it. Get those guys to free agency sooner. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a big deal. If you're a 22-year-old or let's say 24-year-old, this is the biggest one. If you're a 24-year-old, you hit free agency at 30. Imagine if that's 28 now. If you hit free agency at 28, that's huge. Like you're considered a very young free agent.
Yeah.
And there are guys hitting it at, like Soto hit it at 26. That's wild. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sky's the limit at that point. That kind of a system still works. Like I said before, just imagine even if it's as low as 150 million with the current cap where it's at, or tax threshold as the cap, as the ceiling, whatever, 246, I think we said on another show. If you're at 150, just imagine what the Pirates could have done with another $60 million. You wouldn't be signing Tommy Pham, right? You'd have went after somebody better than that. You would be in play for some of these players now, all of a sudden. But you have to fund it. So, you down with all that? We fixing baseball tonight?
No,
we didn't fix it. We're getting there.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Is baseball broken?
No.
Okay. So basically, the Dodgers can't ruin baseball this week.
No.
All right, you heard it from Jake. I love it. Thanks again for everybody in the chat for joining us. Listen, the number of people that are in here during a Steelers game is fantastic, and we appreciate it. Thank you for paying attention. Jake doesn't care. His team's already done. And I'm not watching football right now, so that's just how it goes. I'm done. It's baseball season still. I'm like, you ain't getting me.
I watch football on Saturdays.
There you go. I haven't even watched much of that this year. I mean, almost none.
Yeah.
Unless I was at like a group setting.
I haven't watched as much as I usually do, but
thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Let's go, Bucks.
Let's go, Bucks.
Thanks for listening to my dad and Uncle Jake on the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bridge2Buctober. Don't forget to subscribe so you know when new episodes are released. Clear the deck, cannonball coming, and let's go Bucks!